It's the Boris Dirk podcast. We are live, but this will also go up on your podcast feeds later. It is Thursday, February 26th, 2026. Not that this is news, but tanking is no longer an April thing. Tanking is now eligible for the Winter Olympics. The league just dropped a $500,000 fine on Utah because in two close games, they sat Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. for the entire fourth quarter, even though the NBA said they were able to keep playing. Indiana was charged $100K for holding out Pascal Siakam plus two other starters, and an independent physician said those guys could have played under the player participation policy's medical standards. Adam Silver, our favorite penis man, at All-Star Weekend in Los Angeles, did not sugarcoat it. He said this behavior is worse than recent memory. Teams are officially on notice, in quotes, and he even floated going nuclear with forfeiture of draft picks. So today, like every other podcast in the space, except this one's going to be better, we're going to talk about the incentive structures, how we'd rebuild other pieces of the CBA, this modern NBA, if we were commissioner. I am joined by my usual co-host, Max Klotz, as well as pro football agent, but really NBA guy in his soul, Justin Radin. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
Max,
Drew. I
think, Max, you had your own cold open, so now you can just throw something at me.
Yeah, ready to be commissioner for a day. I would just say, every good president and bad president has their, 90-day plan, what they're going to do their first 90 days in office. And I'm here to tell you, America, that on my first day in office, we're bringing suits back to the sideline. Pat Riley has been in the news a lot this week because the Lakers put up a statue of him, well-deserving outside of their arena. He's arguably like the greatest figure in NBA history in terms of dominance across multiple domains. I believe a champion as a player, 6-time champ as a head coach, 5 with the Showtime Lakers, made it to the finals in the 90s with a Knicks team that played a completely different style, and then again won with a young Wade in Miami. He's unimpeachable, in my opinion, as far as basketball minds go. If we could just have him and Hubie Brown vote on the NBA top 75 and stuff like that, I'd be all for it. He said coaches need to wear suits and look like leaders. Now, frankly, I don't really care about the look like leaders part, but there's no denying that suits just brings a level of gravitas and charisma to the sideline, which is just lacking in today's game and is emblematic, frankly, of the NBA just continually stripping away micro details that seem insignificant on their own, but add up to make the whole feel lesser. It's the suits. Coaches not wearing suits. It's taking away the finals logo on the court. It's, the continued devaluing of the regular season through load management, tanking, as we're going to talk about in length. And I would just bring him back. I challenge anyone to look up pictures of Steve Kerr in the 2010s, patrolling the Warriors sideline in a suit, Doc Rivers, guys who are in the NBA now. You can do a side-by-side, like-for-like comparison of the quarter zip in the suit, and there's simply no comparison. We need to bring him back. I would do it on my first day. And
we also used to have style, though, because I don't want to see that one of the Van Gundy brothers in a shitty suit. But if
that's
you
part of it, though. It's the individuality.
Everyone has a different look.
Riley, Jerry West, they were so suave with their checkered suits, so tailored, the beautiful shining shoes.
People already think basketball coaches are just glorified gym coaches. So what's separating us with the tracksuits? We need the real suits.
Yeah. It definitely makes me sweat just to think about. And I had a sweating problem before I started shaving my head. When you're bald, you actually sweat more, which is a common misconception. Hair is like a sweatband. But yeah. So they flattened the lottery odds in 2019. It hasn't worked at all to prevent tanking. We're at the worst moment in tanking ever. It's worth noting this is, according to all the smartest people, the best draft in a really long time. And a lot of the tanking disaster this year has to do with that. There's a legitimate, group of 3 or 4 guys who can change the course of your franchise if healthy, if everything goes right in their development. And I do agree from looking at these guys that it's a really special class. But the bottom three teams to this day still have a 14% chance of the number one pick. That was the flattening. And the worst record is guaranteed no worse than pick 5 under this post-2019 format. Even with the flattened odds, the incentive is still there because the downside protection is real. And the top 4 chase is also, still a thing. And that, that's even without all like the pick protection bullshit now. That has been a huge issue for teams that don't even have cultures of tanking, like Indiana. And do you guys want to get into all of the things that Adam Silver apparently brought up during All-Star?
Before we get into it, I'd love to go just on a mini rant because
thank you.
I'm a passive NBA fan due to what's going on now, and I think I text you every other night about what's going on in the NBA. So my little speech is that tanking has always existed in the NBA, and it's not new. But what we're seeing here feels fundamentally different, and I feel like we've reached a new extreme. Like growing up as a Nets fan, like I lived through tanking seasons, but those teams weren't manipulating outcomes; they were just bad. And I think there's a difference between rebuilding and actively robbing fans of the product. Like go back to 2003, where LeBron was in the draft with Melo, arguably one of the best draft classes of all time. Cleveland and Denver had won 17 games, but the third and fourth worst teams had won 24 and 25. And this year we may not have at least, 6 teams may not even win that much. And I think if you look at it, 5 teams are currently winning under 30% of their games. I think the Jazz are at 31%. That's terrible. And my biggest issue with it is not the tanking itself, although that is a problem. It's how painfully obvious it is. And I think it's a slap in the face. And I'm a man of the people. And I just can't stand by and watch this anymore. And Silver may be on the block here soon if he can't get this turned around. And I know he's there to put money in the owner's pockets. But if you're a fan, how can you pay and show up to games and watch your favorite player sit for the fourth quarter? So, I texted you I wanted to come on the pod tonight because I've had enough. And we need to implement some changes.
It's horrible. And we haven't even, and I'm not even sure we're going to get into like the gambling side of this.
Yeah.
Just how murky it gets when the league is in bed with so many different gambling services and suddenly teams are incentivized to lose. It's already really unclear, what Chauncey Billups' gambling problem had to do with the tanking epidemic, but it certainly fed into some illegal activity. That's for sure. Jonte Porter, stuff like that. And obviously like some of those individual player prop bets aren't exactly tanking related, but the bottom line is competitive integrity is threatened like never before in the NBA right now. I don't want to say never before. Like obviously Donaghy like turned the league on its head for a couple of years, but this is just like truly wild stuff. The idea that teams are actively seeking out star players who they know are injured so they can sit them for a year or two while they rebuild.
I don't even know if they know they're injured or they create an injury. I think someone's out for the year with a broken nose.
Yeah. I mean, did you see that today Tony Jones reported that the Markkanen is under investigation? Like the league is sending doctors to Utah to evaluate whether he's really needs to sit.
This is one of my solutions.
Yeah, the Jaren Jackson Jr. surgery apparently is valid. It's something he easily could have played through. But Max, you've talked about this recently. These guys are playing 82 games. It's the most physical, fast, grueling game it's ever been. Everyone can figure out a surgery to make their lives easier in the long term. I'm sure if the Nuggets wanted to shut down Nikola Jokic for the year, they could find a very valid medical reason. I'm sure his body's taken all kinds of harm this year.
Yeah, he's been playing through like an arm injury for a year and a half at this point. But yeah, I mean, I do get a little frustrated because there's a lot of talking out of both sides of people's mouths that's going on in NBA media. There's people who are complaining about the 65 game rule and people not being eligible for awards. And saying we need to get rid of that because these guys are getting hurt and they clearly should be eligible for all NBA, MVP, etc., but they're not. But then they're also getting mad about load management and guys not playing for illegitimate reasons potentially. So I don't think there's a way to solve it with the as far as resting and load management and things like that, with the current game schedule, if I was commissioner for a day, I would strip the game schedule back to 72. Just you play everyone in your conference 3 times, everyone in the opposite conference twice. And that way, the percentage of games that people play in, I think, would go up because back-to-backs, etc. You space the games out a little bit more. And that way, I think the main issue facing the court in terms of, competition and just general like watchability on a night-to-night basis is injury. And the fact that the league can't keep the best players on their good teams on the court. So yeah, if you're a bad team, you're incentivized to rest your guys so you don't, have someone pop their Achilles in a game that's meaningless to you, but next year could really impact things. So obviously the blatant like pulling guys out of games and there's always been like a line of, but players don't try to lose games. Coaches don't try to lose games. It's on the front office to like put basically a shitty product out there that's not going to be capable of winning games. And then like tanking's okay in those cases. And we've crossed the Rubicon into coaches in the midst of games, like tinkering and affecting the actual outcome. So I will say this year, I do think is a bit of a rare case because the draft is so good. There's such a confluence of like these protected picks that are flying around that there's all these teams that are like being really brazen with this. I don't necessarily think it means we need sweeping change because like next year and the year after that, the draft is going to be a lot weaker. And I don't think we're going to see teams be as brazen in getting a top 4 seed in the lottery as they have been this year. But I am willing to hear solutions and sort of also poke holes in what Adam Silver proposed, because I think all the stuff that came from Shams was pretty bad.
Yeah. So we don't need to litigate that. It sounds super boring. I want to talk about my own ideas, but these are the bullets that we heard about. Adam Silver proposed freezing the lottery odds at the trade deadline. Great. Now we're going to have tanking in October. They'll move the season up just so teams can tank before summer's end.
I think it's easier to tank with that. I'd say, all right, shut these guys down for the first 30 games of the season. And then it's like, I think that's how do you want to start the season? You want to start season?
By the way, if you care about fans finding your game on the 18th streaming service you threw the game at, good luck when you've lost them because teams started tanking even earlier and you have like 40 games left and everyone's already quit because they watched their team sit their best players in a 4th quarter in November.
Opening night on TNT is going to be filled with G Leaguers and scrubs.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of guys getting surgery in August and then all right, let's fire it up. And we know Cooper Flagg's in this draft. So, we're debuting whoever, like if prime Damian Lillard's going to start playing in December so we can get Cooper Flagg next to him next year.
Yeah, I think the Blazers thought that rule was already in place with the way they handled Scoot Henderson this year. So number 2, Silver talked about the 2-year rolling lottery odds, WNBA style. He talked about flattening the odds for all lottery teams. That now we're talking. That's something I can definitely get interested in. No consecutive top 4 picks or no consecutive bottom 3 finishes. He talked about. Sorry, you want to go on that one?
The no consecutive top 4 picks. My friend was texting me about this because I was asking for some viewer submissions for commissioner for a day ideas. And I think hockey does this where you're not allowed to have a top 4 pick in consecutive years. I think that'd be good, but also like last year, the top 4 picks were Dallas, San Antonio, Charlotte, and Philly. And none of those teams are like in the brazen tanking category that we're talking about. So it's an interesting thought, but I don't think it really addresses any of what's going on this year.
I have an issue actually going back to the flattened lottery odds. And I think you saw it a little bit with the new changes, but if you're a team stuck in the middle and you're like right split between trying to make the play in or being in the end of the lottery, if you flatten the odds, I'm just going to go for the lottery. Like, I don't really care about losing a play-in game night 1. So that one I have a problem with too, because if I'm kind of middling and splitting the gap, I'd rather just, I have the same odds as the team with 13 wins, maybe I'll just sit my guys and aim for that. I think that's a problem.
Hold that thought, because I do have a potential solution later that might address that a little bit.
Maybe they won't tank until the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Teams cannot pick top 4 the year after making the conference finals.
That's
that
idiotic.
That one sort of breaks my brain. I don't even want to talk about it.
That's literally just an Indiana Pacers thing.
Yeah.
And like, I hate the Pacers. They're my least favorite team in the NBA from a rooting perspective as a Knicks fan, but like, they had the worst thing happen to you as an NBA fan that could possibly happen. Like, I'm not mad at them for what they're doing this year. I hope they don't get a top 4 pick, but I'm not mad at them.
Restrict first round pick protections.
It's a half measure, maybe a quarter measure.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there would be unintended consequences from that, but like, okay.
Yeah. This might be the sneaky best idea in the silver list, because I just don't like this idea that teams like Indiana can say, oh, oops, here's the way, injuries fell for us this year. And due to the protection now, like we just got to do it. It's not Pacers DNA, but now we have to suck for the rest of the season and sit our best players.
The 1-4, 5-9, 10-30 is like, it's a little excessive. Like we could just say like top 5, top 14. Whatever.
And then expand lottery eligibility to include all play-in teams. Whatever. Who cares?
Okay.
So I want to start off with an idea that I really like. I just want to say all of my ideas are sort of an amalgamation of things I've read and heard. So I'm sure someone said this first, but I really like it. And this is the carryover lottery allocation. Hear me out. Idea number 1, every non-playoff team gets the same number of lottery tickets. So when you're out of contention, losing extra games does not help you. But tickets that do not win a top pick carry over to future years. So winning a top pick or maybe playoff success reduces your future ticket stock. Over time, it rewards teams with bad long-run results in the lottery without rewarding this late season losing.
So under this system this year, who would be the teams being rewarded with the highest? Not sorry if you didn't prep this, but I'm just trying to wrap my brain around it.
I'm trying to think of
real world examples, please.
The Pistons, like for instance, the Pistons had the number 5 pick 3 years in a row a couple of years ago. In most drafts, the difference between the second pick and the 5th pick is pretty significant. Usually there are a couple guys at the top who are more sought after in a tier of their own. And so the Pistons would have been much more likely to sneak into that top 3, suck for maybe one less year in their rebuild around Cade. Instead, they ended up with Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, and who was the other one?
Jaden
Ivey, obviously like 2 for 3 there. It seems, but it delayed the rebuild for them. They're not a massive market team, great home court. No offense, Detroiters. But teams that are sort of ethically tanking, rebuilding with a lot of young players who just get fucked by the lottery, this would help those teams. Especially, this is some empathy for the smaller markets. If you totally flatten the lottery odds, like it's really hard for some of these teams to rebuild around real young talent. What do you guys think of this one?
It seems similar to the sort of lottery is judged over multiple years proposition. I think it does well to get rid of just like the brazen like single season tanking. Does it reward incompetence too much is a question. Although we're already rewarding incompetence, but it's sort of basically this system is geared to give an advantage to teams that are bad without trying to be rather than teams that are bad while trying to be.
A good example for this one would be like, even though the Mavs had a super low chance of stealing that first pick, I'm not putting on the conspiracy hat tonight, but the Mavs, it was a miracle for Dallas that they come away with Cooper Flag because they got the number 1 pick last year. They'd be disincentivized from tanking this year. They'd be much better off, maybe keeping AD, forget the AD trade, but just playing all the vets they have, like PJ Washington, who they just are looking for ways to sit now to stack another nice lottery pick on top of this like Cooper Flag rebuild. So it's actually, I like it for the teams that actually or like San Antonio when they like steal Wemby or Harper is a better example of that. Just sort of being penalized for that really good luck. And I think it is a nice element of parity added that also doesn't incentivize just bottoming out at the end of a season.
Yeah,
It's fair.
Yeah, I like it because you aren't able to like stack good luck back to back.
Yeah.
Basically, it evens it out a little bit more in like a more natural way than just the flattened odds. I think there's something there. I'm willing to hear it. Can I give one?
Yeah.
Like in politics, the key is often to follow the money. And I think owners should have term limits, or rather they should have terms. And every 5 years, maybe 8, but I'd say 5, season ticket holders get to vote on whether to force a sale or not.
That could get ugly.
Yeah.
What would happen? What would happen right now if Nets fans could vote on Joe Tsai?
He'd be out in a second. Unanimous.
And in your guys' defense, that should be enough. It's the fans who keep these franchises afloat. You know, like all the richest people
every season ticket holder get an equal vote, or do people sitting courtside maybe get a couple more than the people in the 400s?
This is a democracy, not a republic. Everyone gets the same voice. What makes me think of this is like the Bulls, for instance, who honestly have not brazenly tanked when they probably should have. But I saw Mark Cuban post something similar to this, where like tanking is often hope for fans of particularly destitute teams. And I know this from like rooting for the Knicks in the late 2010s that, yeah, I was hoping we'd get the first pick and get Zion or whatever. So
tanking is hope. Just think about what you just said. Tanking is hope. Watching your team lie to you that Jeremy Grant is never going to play basketball again, so they can get the 9th pick instead of the 12th pick. That's hope. Where are we as a culture?
Here's the deal: if fans are dissatisfied with the way that their teams have handled like the last few years of basketball, this solution here. Like if an owner is like, we've sucked for 4 years and I'm getting termed out at the end of this next year, if I don't start to show some signs of improvement in life and give these people something to cheer for, you bet your ass that person is going to pour all of the resources they can into making the team as competitive as possible. Now, it might lead to some like really short-sighted trades as like Vivek realizes he's about to be voted out. So he urges the front office to trade all their future picks to get like a play-in team on there. But I think in the long run, that gets him out of the building because that probably wouldn't work and he would be voted out. And you just get more competent people cycling through for these teams that aren't good. And like, most, or not most, but I'd say probably half of the fan bases in the NBA are probably satisfied with their ownership, I'd say.
I don't know who you're pulling.
Is there checks and balances here?
Yeah.
Because I feel like one crazy NBA fan base could just like, you're just voting them out in a second. Is there
maybe we can do like you need a super majority or something. We can make it Succession-esque, but
but you don't need a super majority if your owner's been on Epstein Island. I think
then you just need one vote.
Can you imagine how good the TV would be if there was like a stipulation in Vivek's term as owner that like if they can win 45 games, like he gets another couple years at the helm?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a nightmare for the team long term because he'd just like trade everyone for like Kyle Andersons and Karis LeVerts and just try to scrape together some late season wins.
Yeah.
But it would be fun to watch.
It might lead to the artificial devaluing of NBA teams if owners have to like, be forced to sell. The price might like
finances aside, it's a good idea.
Yeah. I just think it's going to get the best people in the room and will just lead to competency and no fans that feel like they have no hope. Because like if you're a Kings fan, how could you possibly feel like you have hope right now with Vivek at the head of this team? I was in that place as a Knicks fan for a really long time with Dolan. I'm frankly shocked that we've had sustained multi-year run of success with Dolan still as the owner. It's probably because he was building the Sphere. But this is maybe the first time in a long time where he might not get termed out, even though I'd probably vote to get rid of him. But I just think it would, like term limits in politics, I think it would solve a lot of issues if we could just cycle through some of these owners who are incompetent.
I think you're right that we just need more accountability. Like the powers that be, Adam Silver himself. I know like Blazers fans are extremely frustrated because Paul Allen, who was a really strong owner for a long time, paid the luxury tax, did everything you could ask for from your NBA owner, passed away a few years ago. And his sister Jody has just kind of been sitting on the team for years, waiting for it to appreciate. She finally sold it, but like the deal is still being finalized. And in the meantime, we've just been in purgatory where she doesn't want to pay the tax because she knows she's about to get off the asset and make a massive amount of money. And she doesn't care about the team. It was her brother's passion. So there are plenty of accountability issues right now, just in terms of the people running teams and the let's say the stakeholders in the CBA. Justin, hit us.
All right, so I have a few for you guys, but I'll start with this one. I think that so in the NFL CBA, there's it's kind of broken down into like 5-year periods, and over 3-year periods, teams have to spend a minimum amount of cash so that you have teams being competitive and they're spending, so it makes it equal and it puts fans in the seats. So I would love to do the same thing in the NBA and create 3-year cycles. Within these 3-year cycles, a team cannot pick in the top 4 more than once during that period. Additionally, I would create I don't know what the player participation policy is now, but I would create a stricter policy where each team gets an NBA-signed independent physician. Players need legitimate medical clearance to miss games. And if there are more than 3 participation violations within the cycles, you're removed from lottery eligibility. And more than 5, you have a loss of a first-round pick.
I had almost that exact same thing written down of post an independent doctor with each team to do injury reporting, 3 strikes rule for every faked injury. On the 3rd strike, your pick gets sent to the 20s.
What number would Brian Sutter wear for the Knicks? Yeah, it would be good. I mean, it would also be really good reality TV because you'd see a lot of spoiled players, like mid-level exception guys who are now like 100 millionaires in the NBA, really mad that their team said, sorry, your like thigh bruise is not enough to keep you from the first leg of a back-to-back.
Yeah,
so I shouldn't have given that example. I hate back-to-backs, but yeah.
I think this combined with reducing the number of games is
I have that too.
Like ideally the way to go, where you take more of the load consideration out of it. Because there's a bit of a gray area with like, sure, he doesn't have a sprained ankle, but like our whatever biometrics machines indicate that like he has a 10% increase of tearing some ligament in this game. So we're going to sit him. Which is like not exactly an injury. It's just like a risk tolerance thing. So
I would propose 62 to 68 games and try to have fewer than 10 back-to-backs for each team, if possible.
Yeah, I think you can get rid of back-to-backs altogether if you're taking out that many games. But I had the independent doctor thing again, and as well, and the not picking top 4 more than once in a 3-year span, I think, is a good one too. You could even get radical and say you have to have a certain amount of wins over a 3-year span, but I don't know what the punishment would be for that since we're not doing relegation. But
how about we put players on a polygraph on national TV? Your thumb? Show us the thumb.
Yeah.
instead of tunnel entrances, you have the polygraph entrances.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had the independent doctor down too, which honestly, it sounds like we're trending that direction with what's going on in Utah.
All right. Now I'm going to give you the setup that this one I thought of independently. I'm also sure that plenty of other people have proposed this, but I've sent it to you both. It's the horn I've been tooting now for months. 3 big structural levers for the sake of competitive integrity. 1, hard cap. Fuck the big markets. Soft cap plus all these exceptions, the aprons, the luxury tax, the richest billionaires being able to take their team to another level. It lets the big markets stack talent and keep it. We need a hard cap. It can be massive. Like, these billionaires who don't want to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for their teams, like don't own an NBA team. If you hold your team for 10 years, it goes up exponentially in value. We see this time and time again. The league is still growing, blah, blah, blah. Something tells me if Devin Booker's making 70 mil a year, revenue is pretty good. Yeah. So hard cap, no max salaries. Okay. I think this is the most underrated anti-tanking lever because max contracts underpay the best players in the league, first of all, relative to their value. We've said this for years, like prime LeBron was worth more than you were allowed to pay him. Jokic too. All the best guys ever are. And it creates surplus value that can be used to build super teams, first off. And let teams spend money the way they want to. I mean, the way that role players are getting paid now, it turns out it actually makes them less competitive. Guys were more likely to play through injuries when your mid-level exception was a much smaller number. So hard cap, no max salaries, and rookie free agency instead of the draft. I love the draft. It's one of my favorite days of the NBA calendar. I don't say this, lightly, but I think it would be incredibly fun to see teams bidding on prospects like Cooper Flagg and AJ DeBonsa and Cam Boozer and Dylan Harper and Con Knipple, because it's the ultimate skill gap for evaluators. Like, are you willing to clear out cap space to pay Cooper Flagg like he's a star in the early years because you just buy in that much? It also would favor teams that are struggling the same way the lottery does, because all of the best teams are paying good players a lot of money and aren't going to be able to clear out the space necessary to bring in the best talent at the top of the class.
Here's a spin on your idea, and you tell me this is definitely taking a turn. Auction draft instead. And so
we're not using that word.
So I'm canceled. But you have a draft similar, to what we have, draft night, and then teams just put up a bid for maybe give them the top. You don't even need it. You just have a list of players who are eligible for the auction draft, and each team could bid. And if you want to match, you match, and then move along that way. That way you still keep the component of your traditional draft night and viewership on, ESPN and all the major networks. But then you have the same, you have the same idea of using, money and allocating resources to it.
Yeah. In that scenario, does the player have the option to take a lesser salary than the highest said number if they want to, or is it just automatically?
It's an interesting wrinkle. It crossed my mind. We could also have like a rookie. We could have a rookie acquisition budget, because you could also have like an irrational owner or GM who blows up your franchise because they just decide they need to pay VJ Edgecombe $50 million out of the gate. And it's just like completely irrational. Maybe there's like a conflict of interest with an agent. I understand there are risks in these three elements I've mentioned. I don't want to totally compress the middle class. Like, you could still have some version of the mid-level exception and, veteran minimum in a no max salary world. But I just think that this is the best way to create parity, an open market that favors the best talent evaluators, and gets players paid, their true value. Because we've also seen players like Dennis Schroeder get fucked over because they sign late in the process. Nobody has money anymore. I mean, the aprons have compressed the NBA middle class of contracts in a crazy way. So I don't take that lightly. I know like the Players Association wants these vets to be paid respectfully. It shouldn't just be like, the Jokic is making 120 mil a year and then everyone on minimums. But there's a way to do it that I think is both more competitive and also gets the vets paid.
Yeah. And then I like that also, like if you, let's say you just make the second apron number the hard cap and you do away with all the ridiculous like restrictions where you can't, aggregate salaries, you have to dollar for dollar match in trades, all that stuff, which makes playing around in the trade machine infinitely less fun for us. And one of the other viewers or listener submissions we had was like, no more aprons. I don't think anyone likes the aprons, except maybe Bobby Marks. And that's only for the fact that it gets him on TV a lot.
He's in the kitchen with an apron and nothing else on.
But I think he's probably frankly pretty tired of explaining all the aprons to people too. So I do like it. My issues with it are, how do you keep like large endorsement opportunities from putting the thumb on the scale and making it even more big market dominant, where like, okay, yeah, Cooper Flag, go to LA and, they're only paying you 20 where Utah's offering you 35, but you're going to get a Viore like photo shoot on the beach that's going to pay you 15 mil, and like a bunch of like mini aspiration deals start popping up, basically. Like, how do you, or even like ones that are legal and over the table?
I will
like
say that I think no matter the if you're a top, high caliber player, those deals will follow you wherever. And I think some brands may be even more inclined to work with a guy who goes to a smaller market in order to build that market up in a smaller city. So
yeah,
I wouldn't worry about that as much.
And I also don't see how it's any different from what we have now.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other concern is, and maybe you don't worry about this at all, but do you worry about this nuking the transaction market because teams don't have draft picks to trade anymore? And it becomes much harder to move players. I think Russillo made this point on his latest pod, where it becomes harder to make big trades for stars to move if like a team and relationship with a star has run its course. Now teams can't do the 5 first-round picks deal because they don't have anything to trade. You don't worry about that.
Who's happy about the 5 first-round pick trades? It feels like every team is mad. The Nets are still a joke. The Knicks got worse. Like, I know that there's so many owners and GMs behind the scenes who are telling their primary investors and fans, like, look at this. You see this trade? We got 5 second rounders. We've just nailed this offseason. We have the worst team in the league, so we're going to win 9 games. We're going to get Cooper Flag, and we have 17 second round picks in the next 3 years, so we should have our jobs forever. I'm sick of this shit. Don't trade picks. Trade the guys who dribble the basketball.
Yeah. Well, the people who'd be mad are NBA media, because they'd actually have to talk about games being played and not like people who might get traded.
But to Justin's point, we don't want a world where the best team in the league, especially like big market bullies, are just, getting Cooper Flag for $8 million, even though Portland's offering 25 out of the gate. So you could have some sort of like rookie matching system where teams submit offers. Maybe the top tranche of teams is like unable to be in this pool,
or you could, the tiebreaker could be wins or winning percentage or whatever, to then benefit.
But the NBA has long experimented with various like offer sheet concepts. It wouldn't be so out of the box. And maybe, I don't know if rookies should be allowed to rank their preferences, because this could get into like some weird political relationship stuff. And, maybe a monopoly, Rich Paul would just like start co-opting the whole system. But there's a way to do it. And I just like the idea that you don't get to spend more because your owner is Steve Ballmer. That's not the fans' fault. The fans shouldn't be punished because they don't have the biggest billionaire. And the lottery has, we've had some very peculiar lottery results in the last few years. Again, no tinfoil hat, but just like, we want this to be as competitive as possible. So pay the best players what they're worth, keep the middle class relevant in some way, and let's see how smart these NBA evaluators really are. Because one of my favorite things that I always say is, we don't get to see every team's big board. They love talking about the guy they did pick. There are a lot of teams that have a guy, in their top 10. He doesn't fall to them. They were 100% going to take him, and they don't have to pay a price for it. Let's see on the open market what teams are willing to pay prospect to prospect.
Yeah, and even if you keep the draft, I still like the hard cap, no max salary model, just because like we've seen year over year, like, and maybe I'm the guy on here just trying to protect teams from their own incompetence, but the most destructive thing you can do to your team is pay non-superstar players superstar money. It's been said many, many times. It's been beaten to death. And by having the sort of NFL model, no max salary, where it purely becomes a conversation of like, I want to be the highest paid QB in the league. Okay, are you Patrick Mahomes? No. Then okay, let's kind of put you in like, you're around Matthew Stafford's level. We'll give you a little bit more. So like negotiations are good, but it allows for a little bit more organic of like a salary ranking. Guys aren't getting $70 million who like completely hamstring you and aren't able to get you over the top. So I do think the no max salary thing is like a worthwhile thing, and you get rid of the restrictive aprons, you get rid of all the trade restrictions. I think it's the most free market approach for sure. One other salary thing I wanted to throw in, whether this is draft or rookie free agency or wherever we are at this point, is players you draft are discounted against the cap. Because we've seen with already like some of the second apron discussions popping up around OKC and players who they aren't able to keep going forward. We've seen it with other teams too. You should be rewarded for identifying talent and developing it on your own, whether it's like through the NFL model where you can do like, move money around through signing bonuses and stuff like that. There should be a way for NBA teams to be able to keep the talent that they draft and evaluate and identify. So I would propose something like, players that you draft, their contracts only count for like half of the cap hit or something like that. And that way it puts more emphasis on evaluating talent, more emphasis on building like sustainably and through the draft.
OKC would be even better.
Yeah, but they should be. They've got the best GM in the league. They should
Agreed. And also, if we kind of start to combine our ideas, they wouldn't be able to trade for all these picks they have that like take their current situation value to a whole nother level. Just let people nail their picks and not have to pay a price for it.
Yeah. All right,
Justin.
Are we still on tanking or other half-baked ideas?
Anything you got?
All right. Well, I would love to touch, just because this recently happened, I would love to touch on how to fix the All-Star weekend, if that's all right with you guys.
Do it.
Yeah, I've got stuff on that too.
I would start with bringing back East versus West and borrowing from the good old days of the MLB, and the winning conference earns NBA Finals home court advantage. I know it's a been there, done that, but the MLB All-Star games were some of the best, growing up when the real stakes were on the line. So I think that's a good way to go. Another way to separate the teams. I'm done with this draft. I like if draft classes played each other. I think that would be really interesting. And then the other thing is I'm really sick of the dunk contest being, G leaguers who have not played a game in the NBA. So my solution would be each team submits 3 of their top point per game scorers. For the most part, that is, those are their stars. The NBA conducts an elimination style draft. And then the final 5 undrafted players are required to participate in the dunk contest, and no team can have more than 1 entrant. And that's how we bring back NBA Saturday Night.
I was rewatching Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, which I do every so often. It's the best thing ever. And I didn't even realize that Mac McClung won it 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
I would have bet my life it was 2.
He also had more dunks ready to go this year. He didn't.
Yeah, and he is like one of the best dunkers ever. His dunks are completely ridiculous. He's like an Olympic leaper, and no one cares.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Because he's a mascot. He looks.
I gotta be honest.
He looks like a white guy you see at halftime jumping off a trampoline.
Yeah, he's Red Panda for dunks. I didn't even know who won this year. Like I don't know who that is.
I'm trying to remember.
Johnson.
What,
the dancer.
Dancer.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. It was Keyshawn, and it happened. I watched the whole thing and I still couldn't have told you. And he was doing, why was he lifting his shirt up a little bit? I can't get into it.
Fortnite dances.
Yeah.
I keep spawning.
It's probably an intelligence asset. Go on, Max.
For me, All-Star Saturday Night, one-on-one tournament has got to be in there. Like the way that all those clips that were floating around from Unrivaled, the women's league, and like Paige Becker's dusting other WNBA stars off the dribble. Like we need that for the NBA. And I don't care about the fear of embarrassment. Like just make them do it. Commissioner for a day. This is a dictatorship.
I think also while we're at it, I had down in my notes, just give $1 million per player on the winning All-Star team.
Agreed. I had that as well.
Just give them $1 million. I don't care how rich these guys are. $1 million is nice.
Agreed.
And it'll get really fun.
And I really liked the game this year. It was a well-played game. I'm under no illusions that like it's going to necessarily continue into future years. We've done this in the past where we changed the format the first year, and clearly Adam Silver like sends an urgent memo to all these teams like, guys, we really, really, really have to try this year. And, sometimes they listen. And it's always All-Star games. It's always been the case. If it's close at the end, they'll make it competitive. The problem is we went through like a 3 or 4 year stretch where it wasn't close to being close at the end. This year, I think, did come up with a good solution of like the fact that every quarter is basically a fourth quarter. So I think I would keep that. And I'd make it East-West as far as like selecting the players. And then I would just denote a narrative czar in my commissioner administration who would find a way to organize those players into 3 categories that would then compete against each other. So like maybe some days it's like this year where it's old American, young American, international. Maybe they come up with other things in other years. I don't even want to sort of try to come up with things off the top of my head, but that's for the narratives are to
They
deal
need
with.
to stop iterating every year. My dad doesn't even know half the teams in the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
I can't have to explain. And he loves the league, but he only watches the Blazers. I can't have to explain to him every year that it's the world against Europe, against NBA Africa. And if you're 24 to 27, you're on Vince Carter's team. It's just so dumb.
It's crazy.
Okay, I really liked East versus West. I grew up playing NBA Live.
Yep.
I knew the West had Kevin Garnett and Kobe and Dirk and those guys.
East
and
was Paul Pierce and
by the way, the West was way sexier. But it was cool. These were like stories that I had in my head. Yeah, it was red.
You have to find a way to make every quarter competitive though, because otherwise, if it's a 20-point game,
what happens if you put
quarter,
if you have the winning conference getting home court? I think the whole game would probably be competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that's too big of a reward for a game that objectively has no meaning. But
tell Bud Selig that.
Yeah, and baseball is unique because like it's hard. Like you get injured in an individual game much less frequently in baseball than you do in basketball, I would imagine. Haven't looked that up, just speaking off the top of my head. But yeah, I'm not against it as like I
just want some stakes. Fan. I just want something on the line to make them go the whole, hard the whole way, and for me to want to tune in. Otherwise, I'm just it's half-assed.
And maybe it's just a generational thing where like the middle generation between LeBron and like this young crew of Wemby and Ant and Cade, who seem to all take it really seriously, like just couldn't be bothered to give a shit. And certainly Jokic and Luka are like 2 of the biggest all-star game terrorists that we've ever seen. Like they come in and completely undermine the importance of the event within seconds.
We need to go back to hating Eastern Europe. But I just want to say, I love that Wemby's bringing the fire and the competitiveness. He's like the coolest guy ever. Amazing for the league. Probably the best player ever if he stays healthy. Like he's ridiculous. I will say there's a little bit of like teacher's pet vibes. Like it's like an off day. You have a substitute teacher and Wemby's the guy who's like, guys, come on, be nice, focus. And he gets an A and everyone else fails and everyone and like the whole school loves him for it.
Can't have it both ways. Can't have it both ways.
I know, I'm just an asshole. I just wanted to say it. Like there's a little bit of like golden boy-ness with Wemby, but I'm glad because he's making the game competitive and he's really trying. And I just love that he is this young and thinking about entertainment value, legacy. He's just, continues to be way ahead of his time as a person.
Yeah. I've got another all-star one, and it's more scheduling related than actual like tweaks to the weekend.
All right.
If we're accepting that we're keeping the system as it is, where we have the same draft, the same trade deadline, trades are still, honestly, aside from the playoffs, the trade deadline is like the marquee week for the NBA at this point in terms of coverage, eyeballs, all that, which is maybe bad, but that is what it is. If I was commish, I would, because currently the NBA is clearly trying to grab eyeballs the week after the Super Bowl. And they have set up that All-Star Weekend is the weekend after the Super Bowl. They get all these people who are coming off of the NFL to try to entice them to tune in, watch All-Star Weekend, see our best players, and get locked in from there and catching up on the season. I don't think All-Star Weekend is the best showcase to try to get people invested in the NBA anymore. Like maybe it was 20 years ago. There was a good game this year for sure. I don't think that that's going to move the needle as far as like getting casual fans to care about the game more. I would move the All-Star Weekend to the week before the Super Bowl. So it's sort of a marquee event, but like it's competing against the Pro Bowl. people can watch whichever meaningless sports competition they want to watch. And honestly, it could be a win for the NBA if they can be like, look, our All-Star weekend outperformed the NFL's Pro Bowl, because for all the problems with All-Star weekend, the Pro Bowl is even worse. Make the weekend after the Super Bowl trade deadline week. You get everyone invested from a viewership and eyeballs perspective into transactions and what's happening in the NBA. They're like, whoa, wait, Trae Young's on this team? I was watching NFL for 3 months. I didn't realize he went from Atlanta to Washington. And then you follow that up with a well-executed Rivals Week, which the NBA has tried to do time and time again. And for some reason keeps scheduling Knicks Nets and like Knicks Hawks and these rivalries that no one's given a shit about for the last 5 years, but make it so that maybe you make it a flex schedule, but it's like, all right, trade deadline. And then we've got Thunder Nuggets, Pistons Knicks, Cavs Celtics. And that is like our hook for these casual viewers who are coming in from the NFL. And that's, it's under discussed. Like when the guys play, the game's really physical. They try super hard. It's an extremely high level of basketball. And if you just have the game speak for itself combined with the eyeballs from trade talks, that is, I think, the best way to actually hook people into the season and increase your viewership and increase like actual engagement into the game. So all started before Super Bowl. It's like a little appetizer, compete with the Pro Bowl. Maybe you get a little PR win, and then trade deadline, Rivals Week, and then the season goes from there. Drew, you muted yourself.
I muted, yeah. You mentioned rivalries, and so I need to talk about the last big picture thing I had, which is seeding is so random now. When it's an 82 game season, we all want it to be shorter. At the end of the year, there's weird dark arts and jockeying to get to specific matchups. And as a famous podcaster in this space, I'm so sick of pretending that we can even predict a playoff bracket at this point in the year, because we don't know who's playing who, and it matters a lot. There are no, even, OKC doesn't look like a super team anymore. Like matchups really matter. And it just feels dumb, like predicting, a certain pair of conference finals at this point. It would be really cool if teams, as some have mentioned in the past, could choose their playoff matchups. And the top 4 seeds in both conferences. So we have the play-in. We have 8 teams set in both conferences. And then the top 4 from 1 to 4 in descending order get to choose who they play. And this is a good way to spice things up and create some real rivalries among good teams. Imagine if the Celtics finished above the Knicks this year and we get to the playoff matchup draft and the Celtics are like, the Knicks fucking embarrassed us last year. Missoula's coming fresh out of a jiu-jitsu session. And he's like, I'm going into that locker room and I'm telling them we have no choice. We're taking the Knicks round 1. Mm-hmm. Fuck playing like a half injured Magic team or who, the Hawks. I don't even know who's going to be in that range at the end of this season. Mm-hmm. We want the Knicks. Bring their asses to the Garden, our Garden. Yeah. And we're gonna make this right.
That's not the Garden. It's the TD Garden.
Okay. I just love it.
What
I love
happens
it.
round 2?
That's a good question. Hadn't thought that far ahead. Thanks. Great. Killed the pod.
I like drafting opponents. And I would also, for scheduling, I think the schedule should be done in like 25 game chunks where you don't like teams, they decide on rivalry week in August.
Yeah.
And then you get there and like half of one team is out. One team is like nowhere near as good as you expected, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Instead, decide, you know who you're going to play from like an opponent's perspective, and like roughly what third of the season you're going to play them in. But the actual order of the games and TV scheduling should be done on much shorter notice. Ideally, it would be done on like a week by week basis, but obviously logistics wise, teams would never go for that. But if you do it like you play the first 30 games of the season and that schedule is determined. And then like at Christmas, the scheduling czars get together and figure out what like the marquee matchups are going to be through, March. And then like the last stretch of the season, which teams are tanking, which teams are no good. And you can actually figure out effective matchups there. Cause it happens way too often when, even if it's not injuries, you just get like,
I think
a great matchup, but both teams are back to back second night. Like
I poked a hole in Drew's. My only thing would be the hotels and travel scheduling. which usually takes place like, months in advance.
Yeah.
Get an Airbnb.
If you can promise the hotels are remaining open through, for anyone to come stay, then that, then
they all have the same number of human beings. Okay. Just the league can handle the bookings. And maybe it's as simple as, okay, we talk every season with the Clippers. Like, if they can get in, they still have the talent to make some noise. And it's fairly obvious that if Steph is healthy at the end of the season and the West falls exactly as it is now, the Thunder, with the first pick in the matchup draft, are taking the Suns. They want to play the Suns in round 1 and not, the aging dynasty in Golden State. That much is clear. And maybe, whoever the 1 seed chooses is the 8 seed. Maybe that freezes it. Even if the Celtics are the 2 seed and the Knicks are the 3 seed and the Celtics choose the Knicks are the 7 seed because two plays 7.
If a top team was really confident in what they were doing and they just took, hey, let's take the quote unquote 3 seed in the first round, and wipe them out. And if we feel confident we can wipe the 3 seed out, then our path to the championship is that much clearer. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah. Too. And what if the Thunder, like, we hear Wemby's ankle is bothering him? We want the Spurs right now.
Yeah. Or they're coming off a losing streak. They're weak. Let's get them now.
Or the Thunder feel like we just have a feeling our best chance of handling the Nuggets is right here, right now. Maybe Aaron Gordon is just coming back from injury. They're still figuring things out, reincorporating Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, who have been hurt all year. We want them now. I just love the flexibility. I love the rivalry and just the competitiveness that would create between the team that's choosing them and the chosen team. And also, you could maybe have some game theory around, like I said, if you're the 1 seed, whoever you pick to play in round 1 is the 8 seed. So it might be worth it to take a team and say, we'll play you round 1. You might beat us, but we're screwing you. You're going to now be, you're not going to have home court advantage in any series. Like there are all sorts of implications that I think make it really fun and competitive and introduce a whole new set of strategies.
It's good TV also.
Incredible.
As a playoff tweak, I would add, if we're just doing like speed round stuff now, if you go up 3-0 in a first round series, it's over.
Mercy rule?
Yeah, mercy rule. If you go up 3-0, like maybe a team someday will come back from 3-0. It's probably not going to be in the first round. If you go up 3-0, it's over. Like I don't think we should bring back best of 5, but
actually, one of my things was bring back best of 5 for the first round.
Okay. So like that's a possibility too. But like I loved seeing some of the 7-game series from the first round, or even 6-game series from the last couple of years. Like that's pretty elite basketball. And like some of the most memorable series of the last few years have been first round series. But I would just say you go up 3-0, it's over. Like you don't have to put up the charade anymore.
But does a 7-game series, like I know like mathematically shooting variance, like the sample is larger and it generally is more competitive and gives you the better team, winner more often. But if teams know that it's not going past 5, like I think there's just a human psychological thing. Like you can't fake desperation. Like it might be pretty similar. You can't go down 3-2. There's just something different about being in game 5, 2-2 and knowing if you lose, you still have a chance. Game 5s would just be game 7s. Maybe not.
Yeah. Any other playoff ones? I have some other more bigger picture
I have some other ones as well. No more playoffs.
Okay. Drew, do you have any you want to throw in or no?
Death penalty for Adam Silver? No, I'm kidding. All right. Yeah, you go.
This is okay. Full season one. Cause I mentioned the player participation policy earlier, the 65-game rule, which has caught a lot of flack. Keep the 65-game rule for Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, and first team All-NBA, and make everything else up to voters' discretion, where like they can decide if they want 60 games of Nikola Jokic or 82 games of Jaylen Brown. Like they can decide in that circumstance, like who's more deserving of an All-NBA spot. Like I don't think it should be like, frankly, I think it takes the onus off of the voter and is a little bit patronizing to just be like, sorry, they don't hit this threshold. They're not even allowed to vote for them. Like that should be part of the voting process and was for decades of having to naturally bake in that this person played 60 games and was amazing. This person played 82 games and was good. How do we weigh that against each other? So keep the MVP and DPOI and first team All NBA sacrosanct. Sure. Like that was kind of already done anyways, as far as like guys not playing 50 games and getting those awards, but everything else I think should be up to voter discretion.
So going off that, I would, I like that rule. I would like a review of the voting board, and I would like a public display of everyone making their case of why they should remain on the, or they should still have a vote. And once you do, gain your vote, I want you to make your case for why you're voting publicly on each guy. And
that's crazy.
No,
That's great. Maybe your vote is public facing, and you just have people know
it already is
what you decided on.
No, really? I want an event.
Wait, really?
It's public, yeah.
Yeah, you can see who people voted for.
I didn't even know that. I will say on the MVP thing, I generally agree with you. Like, it's just ridiculous if a guy misses it by like one game. However, if these chips fall the way it looks like they might, and Cade wins MVP, the Pistons do have the best winning percentage in the league tonight. They are 754, Thunder 750 right now. Cade has been about as good as anyone. I still believe Jokic and Shea are better per game, per minute, but and Wemby too, for that matter. But it's not
Wemby's
wild.
on track.
It's not wild. Like if Cade ends up winning, it'll at least feel like he was rewarded for being at the center of one of the stories of the season, which is that the Pistons are now elite.
Yeah. The only thing that would make me rethink the 65 game rule for MVP is if Jaylen Brown wins MVP. That is the only thing that will make me rethink it.
He's not going to.
It's been a lot of media hubbub around it. The Boston media mafia is out in full force, which leads me to another one, which is mandated league-wide / media education on analytics. Not to make
this
everyone
is starting to sound like the Nazi party.
Again, commissioner for a day. This is the dictatorship. Not to make everyone an analytics head and, say that they're going to take Cam Boozer #1 in the NBA draft come hell or high water. This is just so that people understand what they actually are. And it's not just shooting threes. Like analytics can mean crashing the boards because of the possession game or not turning the ball over, on-off swings, looking at what happens when a guy is playing versus not playing, which is like my huge problem with the Jaylen Brown thing. The Celtics are way better when he's not on the court compared to when he's on the court. I just think we need a primer, and they have the ref symposium every year where they talk people through like what the points of emphasis are going to be. Do that with like someone who can come in and tell people who are going to be on TV, like analytics is not just shooting threes. That can be a part of it, but it should there should be more literacy around it.
Analytics right now for the people on TV, for media, are no mid-range jump shots, more threes or layups, and that's it. That's what analytics means.
I don't think they even get the layups piece of it. Like the layups piece is not widely covered enough.
Yeah, but there's also like pushback against the perceived blog boys, like the people who they think just look at Forbes and Schnorps and decide they know how good everyone is, and it's gotten pretty annoying because I get so annoyed seeing people online say, if you're like talking shit about Paolo Banchero and saying certain guys are better than him or he's a bad contract, like that's all I need to know about you as a basketball evaluator. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe we need to have a real conversation. Just because you're capable of putting up crazy raw box score stats and dunking on people in transition and doing things that are very physically impressive for your size, it doesn't mean you're a winning player. In fact, we've seen a lot in the last few years how many guys can get 25-5 in a losing situation, make it look really aesthetically pleasing, and they get paid a lot for it. They actually end up putting their team in a worse cap situation. So there's just so much nuance to it on like the analytics side, the anti-analytics side, and everything in between. And just because everything online now is outrage slop, I don't expect it to get better, but there's my rant.
Yeah. I have other quick hitters, but I've thrown a few out there. So
keep going.
So I have one. I'll jump in. Like I mentioned in my cold open, I am a man of the people, and I am sick and tired of people paying hard-earned money to go to the game and their star players are not playing. So my proposal is teams will be mandated to rule out their players by 12 p.m. the day of the game, and players will be put into tiers, tier 1, 2, 3, so on. And if a tier 1 or multiple tier 1 players are out of the game, the team will have to discount tickets 25%.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it. It would be a payment nightmare for season ticket holders. My first thought goes to Micah, friend of the pod, who lives in Tulsa but has season tickets for the Thunder. He has to drive like 90 minutes to OKC to see them play. He does it all the time. And he often finds out on his drive to the game that Chet's out or J-Dub's out or Shea's out. And it sucks because there are a lot of games he would sell or give to friends if he knew that he wasn't going to get to see the team even at like 70% capacity. Teams just like, the powers that be aren't going to give that money back. But I agree with you. That's called justice. It's not fair. And obviously the NBA fan is only seeing 1 or 2 games a year, especially in like indoctrinating young fans into the culture. It's so hard telling a kid like the one time a year he's going to see his Milwaukee Bucks play the Warriors, like Steph is out, injury maintenance. They literally list it as rest and it's considered okay. It's tough.
It's not a healthy place. And like hardcore NBA fans know that like literally the best time to buy your ticket is on the way to the game.
Yeah.
But that's not a good place to be as like a sports league. Cause like parents with like 4 kids, they're making these plans like 2-3 weeks in advance. So like, I love your proposal, Justin, but also like it would help part of the problem. But then also you have these families who pay like 3 weeks in advance and then have to deal with that too.
How about like NBA tickets, but it's like the sushi conveyor belt? Just grab one on the way.
Yeah. Or a discount code. If you go and the guy sits, then you get maybe 5% off your next purchase. So that it entices someone to come back and then they have a % off on that.
Yeah. Fold it in with the owner term limits mentioned earlier, where that's how you ingratiate yourself to your fan base is you get people showing up to the games, you kind of give them money back, and then you're more likely to get voted into your next term.
Yep. Because there just isn't another major league where we are so often finding out that the reason the players who make us buy the tickets are not playing 45 minutes before tip for a reason that doesn't make sense.
Obviously in football, there's 17 games. So, the best players are out there if they can be. In the MLB, there's 162 games, but you rarely see the stars taking more than maybe once a week off, maybe twice, but they'll DH. NBA, it's like the only sport where you go and there's a real possibility that the top 4 guys in the game are not going to play.
I see that like Scotty Barnes isn't playing for my fantasy team, and I go to the injury report just hoping, please tell me it's going to be a fake injury. Oh, good. It's right wrist injury management. Oh, he's fine. Good. All right. Yeah. I can start him. He's going to play the second leg of the back-to-back.
Yeah. And like, as I said, like most people who don't go to NBA games habitually, haven't had the experience necessarily of like being burned on this a bunch of times. Like when I go to games with those people, they look at me like I'm crazy when like 3 weeks out, they want to buy tickets. And I'm like, let's wait until the day of the game. They're like, this is not how this works in any other environment, as Justin said. Like, so yeah, fully on board with that.
I have no more takes. I didn't even write this one down, but I will always be in favor of a potential promotion relegation system, the way that it works in European soccer, especially because like college sports are just pro sports now. We're dealing with such a weird situation with Darren Peterson, who's might be the most talented guy in his draft class this year, one of the most talented guards I've ever watched at 19, get absolutely, assaulted online every day by Kansas fans and fans abroad just for like what people don't really understand. He's missed a lot of games. It's unclear if the hamstring injury is real, what's going on. Bill Self, coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, doesn't really seem to know what's going on either. And he's paid several $1 million to play 1 year at Kansas. So fans are understandably upset. And there's a part of me that's like, should like the Kansas Jayhawks or whatever you want to call them in 2026 just be like, the Portland Trailblazers B team? Like Real Madrid has their academy that goes up to the A team in basketball and soccer. And when you're ready, and if Luka's talented enough at 17, he just starts playing with the senior men's team for Real Madrid. Like it does feel like we have been reluctantly moving towards a world where the worst teams in the league should just be like relegated to the G League, and the G League should just be like what college teams are now, which is like a high paying semi-professional system where, maybe the best team in the G League gets a chance to hang with the top. the top tier if they get promoted year to year. And
Yeah,
it just it goes without saying that would do away with tanking fairly
Here's
quickly.
a question, and I guess it relates to Peterson. Is it time for the NBA to remove the high school rule and allow players to go right from high school to the NBA? Because I think actually Peterson probably does go right to the NBA in a lot of situations. I think that's probably his preference.
DeBonsa definitely go. Boozer with he might really value the college experience and the Duke experience, so I could see him not. But
guys are getting more and more athletic. I feel like I wouldn't maybe be in favor of it, but I think maybe guys could hang a little bit more than they could 20 years ago. I'm wondering maybe it's time to reevaluate that change.
I mean, college culture has just been ripped to shreds. Tony Bennett, literally one of the best coaches in recent college basketball history, right before the season just said, I can't do it. Yeah. Like it's just too frustrating. You spend millions of dollars and take dozens of flights and deploy your whole staff to get a kid who just sees your team as a 1-year stepping stone. If his hamstring's tweaked, and I'm not referring to Peterson because I still don't really understand what's going on, like they'll just shut down. They have an agent in their ear saying like, you're losing $50 million if you roll your ankle. So just stop playing, fuck school. It's just really messed up. Most of these kids understandably have a lot of money that they've made just to go to school, and then a lot of money waiting for them. And there's no reason for them to be a proud member of their university, to even go to class. It's not the beautiful college system that a lot of us
If you can go right to the NBA, I think maybe you would bring back a little bit of what we used to know of college basketball, because the guys going maybe either feel like they, want to go get a college education, or they're willing to take the money there for a little bit, maybe play 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. By the way, forget just eradicating tanking. The promotion relegation system, like in the Premier League in England, for instance, is electric at the end of the year, because like the bottom few teams are in like a mini tournament fighting for their lives. Now, I know that we don't have like a massive system of like stadiums and team infrastructure. So you couldn't just be like, oh, now like the Westchester Knicks are an NBA team. Like it would be like this team now like takes over the facilities from the NBA team, which I know would be a nightmare. It's never going to happen. It would just be a logistical craze. But there is an amazing history of like teams at the bottom of the Premier League standings in the last days of the season, like giving everything they have in front of their fans to try to stay in the league, maintain that revenue, and get to play against the best teams for another season, as well as like the top tier of the championship, tier 2, the top few teams like playing their asses off, because winning a title is even more special. It means a chance to go to the big leagues. So I wish we had that system here, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I've got some like minute gameplay ones, if I can throw those out.
I love it.
All right. Number 1, abolish all reviews. Give coaches 2 challenges, and every one that you win, you get another one, up to a limit of 4 per game. So if you see a call you hate in the first minute, you can use your challenge because it was clear it was not off your guy, and you get another one. So you get like a total of 3 for the game. You can do that up to 4, and then that's it. But I think that would still lead to fewer reviews than we see now. If it's too many, then you make it 3, like 2 challenges. You have to win.
So you're getting rid of the like 2 minutes left in the game challenge, like review rule.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of that. I'm getting rid of that was like a pretty hard foul. Now we're going to take 10 minutes to look at it and determine whether it's a flagrant one or not. Like, if you can't, as a ref, figure it, like see in real time, like, man, he smacked the shit out of that guy, that's a flagrant one. Or like, man, that's just a hard foul. And if you're a coach and you feel really strongly about it, then use your challenge, and they can go do the song and dance that right now they're doing anyways. But it just cuts that out a little bit. And it would just make the game flow much faster. Yeah.
I do think the NBA I would be in favor of this rule, but I think the NBA should put a hard 2 minutes on max on every review. Put a minute on it. If you, like you said, if you can't figure it out in 2 minutes, we don't need to look at the details for 5 minutes or talk about it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes, we're in and out.
Hey, Sam Altman, when are we going to start getting the good stuff with the AI? All we get is kids cheating in schools and people sending me emails that were clearly written by a robot. How about you just fucking tell me if the ball was out of bounds?
Yeah.
That would be a good start. That would be a good use case.
No more bullshit ads during free throws. I hate it. I don't even like watching free throws that much, but it hurts me that you think that is a time to sell me Burger King. No more fake returns from ad breaks only to go back to ads. This is something that ESPN started doing a few years ago, where before the second and fourth quarter, they come back for 15 seconds and Richard Jefferson is like, and here in the fourth quarter, Steph Curry cooking. We'll be back. We were just gone. You didn't have to do this again.
Hate to break it to you, it's only going to get worse.
I know.
They're gonna add new tiers.
Players are going to have iPhones taped to their foreheads with ads playing on them continuously.
Oh my God. Did you see what they did during All-Star when Adam Silver brought out Cooper and Khan? And they talked about how you're going to be able to like watch the game from the player's perspective, but they look like little like Wii characters. Who is thinking of this shit,
Who
man?
wants that?
NBA creative.
No, I'm abolishing the in-season tournament. No one gives a shit about it. It curses the team who wins it every single year. The Knicks are having one of the most maddening seasons I've rooted for as a fan, and it's clearly only because of the in-season tournament. Same thing happened with the Lakers and the Bucks. We just don't need it, and it leads to stupid discourse about raising banners. And find another way to get people interested in the game early in the year. I don't really want to hear any counterpoints on that one. That one was just for me. Instead of another one, which I want to pull from soccer, we have the take foul rule in the NBA right now, which is sort of selectively enforced, where like if you stop a fast break with a foul, it's a tech. I think they should make it soccer rules where refs can make a delayed foul call so that if you have the advantage as a play is going, they can wait to blow the whistle until the play finishes. And if you end up scoring or whatever, if this is not for like an in the active shooting thing, in the active shooting, you call it. But if it's like a fast break and someone tries to grab, you let them go, they score or whatever. And then afterwards, if it was egregious, you can assess the foul to that person. I think that would just help game flow a lot more. Any complaints with that one?
No, I like that.
No notes. Here's one. And you need to stop soon because I have to go play pickleball. But to Justin's point about like team ownership, like give this back to the people that actually keep the lights on and pay for tickets. Each team should have like a board of fans, and they should have one, maybe several more like elected like fan leaders.
You know, that was, by the way, can I just start to interrupt? The Nets used to have that. My dad was on the board.
I'm sure Brian Radin was a nightmare to be in the room with. But because he's told the truth. But fireside chats where people like Nico Harrison are forced to sit at a table. We make sure the fan isn't armed, no knives, no guns, and the fan gets a chance to have a real conversation with the decision maker.
I think that exists.
I want the people of Portland to have a chance to sit down across from Joe Cronin and ask him about some of these transactions. I think that we've earned that. And, you know, anybody who's competent enough to run an NBA team and cash those checks should be forced to sit down with a fan appointed leader who has a chance to voice some of those concerns or maybe shower them in praise. Like if a Celtics fan gets to sit across from Brad Stevens, I guarantee you it's going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah. I have one more. Sorry. I have one more. Then I don't want to hold you. And this has been discussed, but creating your own dimensions on the court. So like you could have, you know, you can move the 3-point line back. You could have no 3-point line. It's all twos. You can just, you know, wider court, almost like moving the foul poles and stuff like in baseball. Thoughts?
Yeah. Let's watch Steph turn into Patty Mills.
It's too radical for my blood, but I would love to see it in like the preseason.
Yeah, agreed. I'm in the same boat.
Shooting is such a specific neurotic art form. I think it would be kind of cruel to the shooting specialists, the guys who have sharpened their craft over the course of decades, to suddenly be like, your shot is actually a little bit different in every stadium, but maybe that's the type of chaos we need.
Yeah. My very quick ones. Abolish defensive 3 seconds. We've said that offenses have gotten too advanced compared to defenses, and elite scorers like Luka have talked about the difference in Europe being harder to score than in the NBA is that defensive 3-second rule. So I say abolish it. If you want to make them come out of the paint, have a 5 that can shoot threes. Thoughts?
That's fine.
Are you done yet?
No, you're not playing pickleball tonight. Fewer timeouts, allow more physicality on the perimeter, enforce anti-flopping rules, all of that, I think. And for the love of God, figure out what a continuation is. I can't tell you how many times I watch a game and there's like a foul that's clearly on the floor that they award the and one to, and then there's a foul that clearly looks like an and one that they call on the floor.
It's in college basketball now, which makes it all the worse.
Nobody knows. By the way, I just know for a fact nobody knows. I guarantee you Kevin Durant is wondering the same thing. Like, does anyone actually know what it is? We used to say 2.5 steps. It's fucking chaos. Coach Calipari doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know who's eligible to play. We've got second-round draft picks playing in college. Nothing makes sense anymore. Let's figure out what the hell is going on at every level of government and sport.
That was my last one. You gave me free reign and I took it.
Hey, this has been the Boris Dirk podcast. We just talked for a long time about a lot of different things. And if you made it this far, there's something wrong with you. And that's why we love you. We will be back soon, hopefully with a BDP legal pod. I texted our lawyers several minutes ago. They have not yet responded. We don't have them on retainer, so I hope they still care. And yeah, we'll be back soon. Peace.
Peace.